As Janet said, we first wrote this paper on advertising profitability drivers in 2006, myself and Carl Weaver. It was a paper that was presented at WARC's Advertising Effectiveness conference in January, and then it reappeared in AdMap in March 2006 as one of their papers. So that was only 8 years ago, not very long ago by the sounds of it. But I was surprised to find out that at the same time that AdMap was publishing our paper, that Jack Dorsey was opening the first Twitter account. So quite a lot has happened since then. And back in 2006, the 2008 financial crisis was still 2 years away, way over the horizon. So actually nowadays, 8 years is quite a long time. And so it was no surprise when Janet sidled up to us in the President's address in January this year and said, wasn't it about time we updated this 2006 paper and bring it up to date for 2014? So that's what we've done. If you're not familiar with the paper, this is what we said back in 2006. The idea was that we ranked the top 10 drivers of advertising profitability, and we put a profit multiplier against each of those factors. So top of the list was market size, not something you can affect particularly through your marketing activity, but that was the biggest driver of ROI. So you would see, for instance, a lot of FMCG brands would just be getting an ROI of 50p back for every pound they spent. Tesco's, on the other hand, which sells thousands of FMCG brands, was getting back 20 to 25 pounds for every pound it spent on advertising. So a massive range in terms of the ROI that's achievable, simply driven by the size of the brand that was advertising. So market size was top of the list. Second in that list was creative execution. Now that's the one factor, or the top factor, that you really can impact, that marketeers really can impact. And we gave that a factor profit multiplier of around 10. We were seeing brands that we were modeling over the same year that were getting ROIs that were 10 times bigger for one creative compared to another creative they used earlier in the year. So again, we're seeing big variation in ROIs that brands were able to achieve. As Janet said, Data2Decisions is an econ metric and market mix modeling agency. We were formed in 2001. And we've built a massive database of ROIs. And we've been analysing those ROIs, trying to understand the drivers. So these figures here are based on that database and also based on our experience and learning. And the main driving point behind writing this paper was because we were alarmed that many of our clients back in 2006 were asking us to measure a lot of media tests. They're asking us to measure what's the effect of quality viewing. What if I put my advertising in programs that are perhaps more relevant to my audience? What if I target men instead of adults? What impact does that have? What about trying different laydowns? Now, all of these things were interesting, and all of them can impact your ROI, but as you can see, they tend to be in the bottom half of the list, perhaps adding 5 or 10% to the ROI. Whereas we knew from our experience that the creative execution and that brand size were really the key drivers of ROI from our experience. So our message in 2006 was, yes, look at the media tests and the media factors, but get your creative execution right first. Spend some time testing that creative. Review it and test it again. If you have to, shave off a little bit of the media budget to pay for that testing. It'll pay back in spades later if you can just increase its effectiveness by a small amount. But is that still what we're saying in 2014? A lot has happened in those 8 years. But is creative still the top factor that marketers can impact to affect their ROI? So we started to look at updating this list, and it's occurred to us over the last few years, that there are 3 key themes affecting our business. The first of those themes is the digital explosion, as I've called it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this chart already. It's a bit like the Oscars selfie that's been doing the rounds recently. But it just shows how in 2005, there weren't many mobiles taking pictures of Pope Benedict. But in 2013, Pope Francis, pretty much everyone is taking photos. So that digital explosion really has impacted our business, and it's impacted our ROIs. It's impacted our list in lots of different ways. We've now got a new channel to advertise in. Well, not one channel. We've got search, we've got social, we've got banner ads, we've got pre-rolls, a whole new range of advertising opportunities. It also means we've got multi-screen viewing. Now, what does that do to the effectiveness of our advertising? Are people concentrating less if they're looking at their iPad during the ad break? Or are they commenting about different ads? Are they having a viral effect on the effectiveness of ads? We can reach more people. Facebook are showing more and more how they can reach young adults who are typically difficult to reach through traditional media, especially things like TV. And we can reach those people closer to purchase. People call it convergence. But in theory, you can catch someone in the car park of Sainsbury's on their mobile as they're walking up to the store and give them an ad message that can perhaps improve the chances of them purchasing your product. So it's had a massive effect. It's not in there as a separate factor, but it's impacted all of our top 10 factors. The second theme was globalization. Brands have got bigger over the last 8 years. They've become more international, and they've grown across more countries. Because brands are bigger and that market size factors at the top of our list, it means the ROIs tend to be a little bit higher. So that is a key focus or key theme that has happened over the last 8 years. It also means that budget setting across geographies is becoming more and more important. Brands or businesses have to decide the best way to allocate their budget across their brands in different countries. Not many are set up to do that right now, but I think that's a trend we'll see in the near future. And the third theme is portfolios. Acquisitions have continued to happen apace. Brands buying up other brands like Cadbury's being bought up by Kraft or Mondelez, Scholl being bought up by Benckiser, retailers buying up each other, banks even swapping brands as well. So portfolios is another key part or a key theme of what we've seen over the last 8 years. That means budget setting now is more complex. The same business has lots of brand names and has to decide how to allocate their budgets across those different brand names. It also means that brands can have more halos. If we think about portfolios under a single brand name, and I think Dove was one of the first brands to start doing this, it means your advertising can benefit from halos across the whole Dove portfolio. And again, Reckitt Benckiser are very good at doing this. They add variants to their brand names, Vanish, Sillet Bang, etc., building out on that overall brand name and allowing them to generate more halos and therefore increase their overall ROIs. So what have these three themes, what impact have these three themes had on our list? Well, I've talked about budget setting quite a bit. The list of 2006 is on the left there. And because of the globalization and the growth in portfolios, we decided to split that budget setting list that was third, budget setting factor that was third in the list last time, into three different factors. Budget setting across geographies, portfolios, and across variants. So across geographies, this might be looking at how you allocate your budget for Guinness across different countries. Across portfolios, that will be looking at how you'd allocate your budget across Vanish and Finish within a country, for instance. And across variants, you're looking at the different variants within a brand, within a country, and how you might allocate your budget across those. Now, as I said, not many companies are set up to allocate budgets across geographies at the moment. But that's where we're seeing the biggest opportunity, an opportunity to increase your ROI by a factor of 5, simply by spending the budget on the right brand in the right country. Budget setting across portfolios, also a good opportunity to increase ROI. We've got it down as a factor of 3. We saw a case in Italy, for instance, where they were currently generating 8 million incremental revenue from their advertising of 40 million euros. We saw a way to increase that to 32 million by reallocating the budget across the brands within Italy for one of our clients. Across variants, there's less opportunity, but it still is a significant factor, still making number 6 in the list there. So that's the first change we've made. Lay down, well, that's budget setting, but across time, week by week. How do you spend your money week by week across time? Now, we think that's more important, partly because of the growth in digital, but also because of the proliferation of channels. It's important now, and the growth in portfolios, it's important now to lay down your budget at the right time and across the right brands and across the right channels. So its factors actually increased from about 1.1, a 10% increase, to about a 15% increase. But because of the growth in other factors, we're seeing that it's dropping down the list to about 9th place. And in 2006, we talked about media multipliers. A lot of clients were saying, well, if I did radio and TV, is that better than press and TV? And is that better than just doing TV on its own or press on its own? Well, media agencies don't talk like that now. They talk about ecosystems. They talk about all the touch points and different ways that they can reach their consumers. And the ecosystem is a plan of how all those different touch points interact and how you can channel your consumers towards a purchase. So it's much more complicated nowadays. And that's partly because of the explosion in digital. Consequently, we can have a much bigger effect on the return from planning your multimedia campaigns. So that's moved up in our charts into 5th place with a 2.5 multiplier. And previously we had task, which was around whether you were launching a brand or whether you were maintaining a brand. We've changed that to be more contemporary around whether you're advertising the product, whether you're advertising equity, or whether you're advertising seasonal brands, the seasonal effective brands. That tends to be how more of our clients are talking nowadays across those 3 different types of elements. And again, because of the growth in portfolios, equity has become a key element. Should I advertise my whole portfolio, or should I focus on 1 or 2 products, and what should I do in seasonal periods? So that also has moved up in the list, and in terms of its multiplier has increased to around a 1.4. We've lost a couple of factors, brand lifestyle and quality viewing, brand life cycle, sorry, and quality viewing. They're still important, they're just in positions 11 and 12, they've just dropped out of the top 10. And audience, again, has grown a little bit, partly from the way that we can use digital to reach different people. So getting your audience right is important. It's got a slightly higher multiplier, but it's still in the same position. But what about the top 2? What of our hundreds of econ metric models that we've built since 2006 told us about the top 2? Well, we don't think they've changed. We still think that market and brand size is the key determinant of your ROI. We've given it a slightly higher multiplier. We've given it an 18 now instead of a 16. Again, partly because of the growth in brands over time. But as I said before, you can't really affect market size. The top factor that marketers can have an impact on is still their creative execution, in our opinion, and based on the analysis that we do. We've given it, again, a slightly higher multiplier of around 12, for a number of reasons, partly because brands are bigger now, so their ROIs are bigger. Advertising tends to still have the same percentage uplift. That is now a percentage uplift of a bigger brand, so the ROIs tend to be bigger. But we've also seen some interesting things around the portfolios, some of which I mentioned earlier. For instance, advertising now works not only on the brand you're advertising, but the 5, 10, or 15 other brands that are part of your portfolio. So consequently, we see ROIs being slightly higher now because of that portfolio effect. We've also seen the rise of tagging, which again is enabled by having a portfolio. So tagging is where you have 20, 25 seconds of the main brand or of an equity ad, and then in the last 5 seconds you tag on another product. We're constantly seeing 30 to 40% higher ROIs for our clients that use tagging compared to clients that don't use tagging, or compared to ads where the same client hasn't used tagging. So that's contributed to increasing the effectiveness of our creative execution. And portfolios also provide a bit of a safety net for new product development. We find that new product development, the advertising behind NPD, has a bigger percentage uplift, but because it's a new product, sales are lower, so it's a bigger percentage uplift of a much lower sales level. So you see the ROI is often somewhat lower for NPD. Within a portfolio, however, brands can launch an NPD, and that advertising will have halo effects across the existing brands in the portfolio. So we're seeing NPD advertising have a much higher ROI over time. So no change in our top 2. Still market size at the top and still creative execution in second place. What was interesting in compiling this list was that the multipliers are all higher at every level. So although things have got a lot more complex nowadays, there is more opportunity for us to impact it. There's more opportunity for us to learn and understand and help our clients to achieve higher ROIs from their advertising. So that's our overall list. As I said, it's got more complex, but we've got more control. Our levels are higher, or our multipliers are higher at each level. But the key factor for impacting ROI is still getting the creative right. Thank you.